classic signs of a cheating wife. Coming home from work, I went to the post office, and as usual, my box was full of junk mail and bills. I flipped through them and tossed most of them in the trash can next to my desk. Between the visa application and the bill from Conoco lay an envelope, written in a flowing handwriting I knew all too well. I'd been getting one letter a month for over a year. She guessed I was getting mail forwarded from my old address, so she wrote and sent letters there to be forwarded to me. I met Pat at a wedding reception. A guy I worked with was getting married, and the whole office was invited to the wedding. After the wedding, everyone went to the reception. I had been there for about an hour when this tall, blonde woman walked in. She was getting everyone's attention and was definitely getting mine as well, but she wasn't alone, so I put her out of my mind. Well, not really put her out of my mind. The hall was small, so she was in sight most of the time. Maybe another hour went by, and I noticed that she seemed to be getting more and more upset with her date. Right after the bride and groom cut the cake, I got up to go to the bathroom. On the way, I had to pass the table where the blonde was sitting. As soon as I got to the table, I heard her say, "Asshole!" As quietly as she said it, it sounded like it was addressed to me, so I turned to her. "I beg your pardon?" She blushed and said, "It's not to you, but to that worthless piece of work, my beau. All he does is drink. I've been trying to get him out on the dance floor since we got here, but all he's done is drink, and now that lump has left me. I guess I deserved it, though. That's what I get for going on a blind date." Relieved that she didn't think I was an asshole, I made my way to the bathroom and then back to the table I shared with a few co-workers. The next time the orchestra played, I glanced over and saw her watching the dancers and stomping her feet. On a whim, I stood up, walked over to her, and asked her to dance. She said yes, and that was the beginning of a torrid affair that resulted in our marriage 3 months later. Patricia Ann was a computer genius and worked for a large corporation as a systems administrator. She tried to explain to me what she was doing, but I am computer illiterate, so it all went in one ear. I know how to turn on my comp and how to log on to the internet, but that's the limit of my computer savvy. I make my living as a heavy equipment mechanic, and I'm pretty good at it, so soon the two of us had saved enough to put a down payment on a house. We had a great marriage. At least I thought we did. I was madly in love with her, and she certainly felt the same way about me. But in the 6th year of our marriage, something changed. When it started, I couldn't determine with any degree of certainty, and it could have gone on for quite a while before I noticed. Patty always left work one night a week with the girls and was usually home by 9. I didn't notice as the time grew to 9:30, then 10, then 10:30. And it wasn't until later that I remembered those evenings. Patty started working late a couple times a week, usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays. She attributed this to an unexpectedly large contract with critical deadlines. They weren't equipped to handle such a large order, and until management made some decisions about which way to go, everyone was asked to work overtime to get the order. "Decisions?" I asked. "What kind of decisions?" "They want to make sure the contract will be long-term before investing in more equipment and hiring more people." "And how long will it last?" "Maybe a couple months." "I don't know exactly." A couple months stretched to 8 before I started complaining about it, to which she always responded calmly, "It doesn't have to be that long, baby. I know you don't like it, and I don't like it either. I don't like dragging boxes around the platform, but I promise to help." And then one Wednesday night, she called me and told me she had to work late. Anne was supposed to work tonight, but she had an accident and is now in the hospital, so I would have to fill in for her. The next morning at breakfast, I asked, "What about Anne?" Patty looked at me in confusion and then said, "Anne? Ah, yes, Anne." "Not really. They have her in a stretch. Both legs and one hip are broken, and she's going to be out of work for a while. The poor thing is having a heck of a time. She went on vacation with her boyfriend, and before it was over, he told her he found someone else. The airline lost her luggage on the way home, and now this accident." "So now you're going to be working overtime on Wednesdays?" "Yeah, and maybe even 1 or 2 Fridays." That's when I started thinking about things. Up until that point, her overtime was annoying, and that's all I thought it was. Just a stupid bunch of incompetent managers who couldn't get their heads out of their asses and solve a problem. It all started with the confusion on her face when I asked about Anne. It was as if she had lied, forgotten about it, and then had to hurry up and cover it up. And if that was the case, was she lying about having to work late? That's when I remembered the Wednesday nights spent with the girls from work and how they started ending later and later. I wonder what the computer guy is doing moving boxes on the loading dock. That Sunday, everything came together for me. I was doing routine maintenance on Patty's car. I changed the oil, added windshield washer fluid, and then decided to change a tire. When I opened the trunk to remove the spare tire, I discovered 2 suitcases. Curious, I opened one and found it full of clothes. The other was full of underwear, high-heeled shoes, and the like. Heels and lingerie I'd never seen before. I don't know who Patty wore them for, but certainly not me. So much for Patty working overtime. There could only be one reason for the multiple outfit changes and all that junk in her trunk, and it certainly wasn't work-related. I'm a slow thinker sometimes, but I try not to be a fool. I analyze problems, run them through my head, look at them from all angles and think through all the options before I make a decision. I finished bolting on the tire, closed the trunk, and walked home, determined to learn more before doing anything. Since it was the vacation season and things were pretty hectic, I put off following Pat until the end of the year. I didn't have to wait long, though. Patty's Christmas party was scheduled for Wednesday, and she was looking forward to it. I had a last-minute job that prevented me from going with her. She was upset. No, she wasn't. She was pissed off, and took a big snap at me, and I was no better, yelling back at her, "Now you know how I feel when you work overtime." And I said I would try to finish on time so I could at least show up, but that didn't seem to calm her down at all. The day of the party, I worked as hard as I could to try to make it on time. The party started at 7, and by kicking ass, I was able to finish work, get home, shower, change, and be there by 9. I walked in and saw Patty hotly hugging and French kissing some guy while people were stomping their feet, pounding their fists on tables and yelling, "Get a room, you two, and take your novel to the motel." I turned around and left, and no one even noticed I was there. On the way home, I tried to figure out the reasons that might have made her go looking for a man, but I never realized anything. For God's sake, I treated her like a queen. I did everything I could for her. I helped around the house. I cooked at least 3 times a week and cleaned up after myself. In the evening, waiting for her to come home, I did a load of laundry. I cleaned my den and the first-floor bathroom next to my den. All this in addition to taking care of the house, yard, and both cars. I never forgot a birthday or anniversary. I remembered the day we met and gave her a card every year on that day, the same thing on the anniversary of the day I proposed to her. I never even looked at other women. I had done everything I could to be the best husband she could hope for, so what had gone wrong? The only thing I could think about was the 20 pounds I had gained in the last 5 years. Was that the cause? Was I no longer physically attractive to her? It didn't matter, though. What I saw meant one thing. We had missed our marriage. I loved her deeply, but not enough to make me share her, and not enough to make me fight for her. So what if I wrestled her away from this guy? Could I wrestle her away from the next guy? And the one after that? No. As much as it pains me to admit it, Patty and I are breaking up. But I've decided one thing. 20 pounds has got to go. I'm gonna be fit when I start seeing women again. I've also decided not to get divorced. I'm never getting married again, and Petty and I get along just fine while she plays with her lover, so I'll maintain the status quo and save myself the hassle and expense of a divorce. All I have to do is pretend I don't know anything about her lover. That evening, back home, she was in a great mood and wanted to make love. It would have been unnatural for me to refuse her, and besides, I was curious to see if I could be said to be getting scraps in sex. Surprisingly, she felt the same as she had on any of the hundreds of other nights we had made love, all of which told me that I had been a second man long enough. though I wondered if she was trying to make love to death to me out of guilt, or was she getting a charge out of giving up the leftovers after her lover? I went to the gym on Monday, sat down with a personal trainer, and he put together a program for me. I went to the gym on my way to work on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and after a month I started running on the weekends, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and only rested on Sunday. My relationship with Patty remained unchanged. She still acted like I was the one and only. Well, I never showed that I knew extra. She still worked late at least 2 nights a week, and I stopped whining about it. In 2 months, I had lost 18 pounds, strengthened a little, and felt pretty good. Marla and Sally, the 2 girls who worked with me in the office, both commented on the change, and Sally asked me what had caused it. I told her I was trying to get in shape to be more attractive to women. Oh, and what does Patty have to say about that? We have an understanding? Open marriage? Yeah. Well, macho, I'm ready if you are. That took me by surprise. I was always flirting with Sally and Marla, and they flirted back. I never expected it to be anything but flirting, but from the sound of Sally's voice, she was serious. Why? I said to myself. Go ahead, Jerry. Knowing that Patty would be working on Thursday, I said to Sally, Are you busy Thursday? I guess I am now. What do you mean? It's up to you. Okay, I'll figure something out when you pick me up. A casual dress. I'll be there at 6:30, okay? Marla, who had been standing listening, suddenly jumped up with the words, I have seniority here, and Sally laughed. You overslept, you lost seniority. Now wait your turn. I arrived at Sally's at 7:30, and she appeared at the door in her robe. Am I too early? No, I'm already dressed for our date, and she opened her robe. She was naked except for her stockings, high heels, and garter belt. I think we'll have dessert first, then dinner, and then we'll decide what to do. She led me into the bedroom. There we made love. We never had dinner that night, and I was a very satisfied man. Sally walked me to the door, kissed me passionately, and asked when we could meet again. I can do Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm available Tuesday and Thursday. I stopped by work on the way home, showered in the locker room, changed into my work clothes, and then went down to Bill's bar for a beer to keep me out of breath, then went home. When I got home, Patty was still awake. Where were you? Knowing you wouldn't be home, I decided to stop by the guy's house after work and play pool. I hope you didn't drink too much because I'm horny and want you. It wasn't easy for me to fulfill her request, but I managed it nonetheless. It took me a while to get my mind off the drink. I'll have to watch out for that in the future. I had completely forgotten that Patty always comes home horny when she works late, and I must see to it that I leave some energy for her. For the next 6 weeks, Sally and I had sex, and then one night she told me, It's Marla's turn now, Jerry. What's up? This is our last time. I want Marla to take over for me. I don't get a vote? Yes and no. You have a say in whether you want Marla, but this is definitely our last time together. You're a married man, Jerry, and I can't afford to get too deeply involved with you. There's no prospect for me here, so I'm letting you go. Be a good guy, we'll stay friends, and I won't have to quit my job. Okay? Do you think Marla really wants to? I know she's got a soft spot for you, honey. All you have to do is ask her out. And maybe that won't even be necessary. She knows we're stopping and she can come to you. That's exactly what happened. On Friday, Marla came up to me and said, I hear you have Tuesday and Thursday free now. Can I take them? My first night with Marla was almost a repeat of my first night with Sally, in that we didn't leave her apartment at all. There was a marked difference between Marla and Sally. My affair with Marla lasted 5 weeks, and then she ended it for the same reason Sally did. I got too deeply involved with you, Jerry, and that's not good with a married man. They both said that if I were single, we could live together. They were both fun girls, and they were both great in bed, But getting divorced to be with either of them? Not serious. They both had an affair with a married man. Why would I want a girl like that? I already had one at home. Over the next 8 months, I dated and slept with 9 different women. None of the affairs lasted longer than a month, most only 2 or 3 weeks. But I didn't want anything long-term myself. My domestic situation hadn't changed. Patty still worked late a couple times a week, almost always on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so those were the meeting nights. I have no idea how much longer things would have gone the way they were going if it hadn't been for a strange coincidence. It was Wednesday, and I was at the gym. I had just finished my workout and was in the shower when the man who had been with Patty at the Christmas party walked in with 2 other guys and started changing into gym clothes. I turned off the water, wiped myself dry with a towel, and listened to the conversation between the 3 men. It sounded like the guys had gone from evening to morning. There was some work-related conversation that led me to believe they worked for the same company, though not necessarily in the same office, and then one of them said, "How are you doing with that fox you were with at the Christmas party? Still making love to her?" "I keep telling you I'm not even trying to get in her pants. We're just good friends." "Yeah, sure. I'd like to be friends with her, too. I'd love to be friends with her." "Forget it. She's so attached to her husband, you'd think he was gold." "Come on, Mike. I've seen you 2 hugging and kissing." Like brother and sister, good friends, hugging and kissing. Honestly, she's so hung up on her husband that no other man stands a chance. "Nonsense, Mike. I saw you both at the Christmas party, and that kiss you exchanged was not a brotherly kiss." "Right, but that doesn't mean anything. Her husband promised her he'd come, but he never showed up. She was furious and drunk on top of it. When she finally resigned herself to the fact that her husband wouldn't show up, she grabbed me and said, 'It's a holiday party, and someone was going to kiss me under the mistletoe, and if it wasn't going to be Jerry, it was going to be you.' That was the only time." "I find that hard to believe." You want to know how obsessed she is with her husband? You know all that shipping and overtime everybody's trying to avoid? She's working every minute to buy him a bass boat for his birthday. Most of what she and I do is her asking me about engine sizes, fish finders, and everything else she plans to outfit the boat with. I just hope the guy realizes what a gem he's found in her. Let's hurry up. I only have until 7 to play. When they left, I sat down on the wooden bench in front of the lockers and stared at the wall. Oh my God. What have I done? I had completely misinterpreted what was happening and then let myself freak out. I was doing what I mistakenly believed Patty was doing. I was cheating. I was going behind the back of the woman who loved me, and cheating, and more than once, and with many women. The only saving factor was that I didn't rebuke Patty. "You cheat, so I'll cheat double." Patty didn't know that I was cheating and that I obviously wasn't going to do it again. I would do everything in my power to make it up to her, even though she would never know. But it didn't work out. I just wasn't the kind of guy who could cheat and then go through life pretending everything was okay. I could act like that as long as I thought we were both cheating, but as soon as I found out she was faithful to me, it hurt me. I couldn't bring myself to look her in the eye. I couldn't even bring myself to make love to her because the touch of a cheater on her would defile her. I had really ruined my marriage and messed up my life. It was a very stupid thing to do. All I should have done in my day was to just walk up and say, "This is what's going on, and this is why I think so," and we could have talked it out. After the overheard conversation in the locker room, I had no doubt there was a reasonable explanation for the suitcases in her trunk as well, but it's not like I'd ever given her a chance to explain herself. I was totally screwed. I couldn't face her. I didn't have the courage to sit down and tell her what I had done and why. I was a coward, and I did what cowards do. I ran away. I went to my boss, told him I caught my wife cheating and I was going to move on. I like the company and like the work I do, and if you have an opening somewhere else, I'd like to move there. If not, I guess I'll have to apply. He picked up the phone, made a call, and there I was on my way to Colorado. I told him that my wife would probably be looking for me to cause me trouble, and I asked him to tell her that I had left without warning, and that he had no idea where I had gone. The next day, while Patty was at work, I loaded all my stuff into the pickup truck. At the last minute, I wrote a simple note. "I'm sorry," and put it on the kitchen table. It was disgusting for her, of course, but she'd get over it eventually. She deserved better than me. She'll be able to get a divorce as abandoned and move on with her life. It happened 14 months ago, and in those 14 months, not a day has gone by that I haven't thought about Patty and what we had, and I so foolishly ruined. Luckily, I had a lot of work. Work occupied my mind and hands for 10 to 12 hours a day, but the nights were killing me, and waking up alone in the morning was murderous. When I first came to my new job, I decided to go to a bar after work and drown my sorrows, but that went away quickly. Going to work every morning hungover wasn't good for me, and the beer was ruining everything the gym and running had done for me. So I got in the van, found a local gym, and started getting in shape. After being there for 6 months, I noticed a few women who seemed interested in me, but I didn't take the initiative. My head was still full of thoughts of Patty, and I didn't know if the day would ever come when I could think about another woman. I opened my Conoco statement and saw that I had overpaid and gotten a credit, so I tore it up and threw it in the trash. I didn't open the Visa application. I knew damn well I had no credit on that account and wouldn't make the payment until my next paycheck, so I put it in my pocket. I picked up the letter from Patty and stared at it. I brought it up to my nose and imagined I could smell her, then tossed it in the trash. "That's it?" came a voice from behind me. "You don't even open the letters, you just throw them away?" I turned around and saw Patty. "Hey, Jerry. Long time no see." I just stared at her. I couldn't even run away, because she was between me and the door. "Who bit your tongue?" "Well, I shouldn't be surprised. You've always been a man of few words. I got 2 words when you left, and I don't even know what you regret. All last year I've been thinking, I'll never understand why you wasted an extra word. You could have done it with just 1 word. Goodbye." "Come on, Jerry, say something." "How did you find me?" "I won't. If you run away again, I may have to use the same method again. I'm not going to give you another opportunity to cover your tracks. The point is, I'm here, and I'm not leaving until I know everything." "Not here. Let's go to my house." "So what in God's name made you think I was cheating on you? You had all the classic signs of a cheating wife. Suddenly you're working late, even though you've never done it before. Increased lovemaking with your husband because you either felt guilty or your lover was winding you up by the time you had to go home, so your husband had to put out the fire. Or maybe it was because you were turned on by giving your husband your lover's leftovers. The evenings when you stayed in for drinks with your co-workers who kept keeping you later and later. Then I found suitcases full of attractive clothes in your trunk that you never wore for me. All of this, along with the fact that I showed up at the Christmas party and saw you tongue wrestling with a guy while all your co-workers were yelling at you to get a room and go to a motel. They wouldn't have said that unless they were sure you were lovers. It all came down to your wife cheating on you. You poor stupid fool. Why didn't you talk to me? The suitcases belonged to Anne. I told you the airline lost her luggage. They found it. But by then, Anne was in the hospital on a stretch and asked me to pick up the luggage, and over time was real. All you had to do was look at my receipts. You're right about the increased sex being driven by guilt, but it was guilt for leaving you alone so often. I knew it bothered you, and I was trying to make it up to you. As for Christmas, it meant nothing. I had too much to drink, mad at you for not being there to give me a Christmas kiss under the mistletoe, so I grabbed Mike. Yes, it was unnecessary, but if you had stayed, you would have seen us break up and go to different tables, and he didn't even dance with me the whole evening. God, Jerry, I can't believe you just left me like that and didn't even try to explain. That's not why I left you. I left because of me, because of what I did in return. And what did you do? I took a deep breath and told her about Sally and Marla and everyone else, and how I'd managed to keep my marriage together because my cheating kept me on equal footing with her cheating. And then, when I found out you weren't cheating, my life just fell apart. I couldn't look you in the eye knowing what I had done to you, and I realized you deserved better than a cheating asshole. So I left. She sat there looking at me, trying to comprehend my words, and then she said, "How did you know I wasn't really cheating?" I told her about the conversation I overheard at the gym. Her face went a little pale, and she said, "Oh my God, what the hell?" She kept looking at me and shaking her head. "Let's see if I got this right. You thought I was cheating, so you were cheating to make us even, right?" I said, "Yes," and she continued, "So while we were even, you thought we could continue to live together, and that everything would be okay. Everything would be fine, right?" I nodded. "It was only when you became convinced that I wasn't cheating that everything went to hell, right?" I said again, "Yes." "So if you never heard that conversation at the gym, we'd still be living together? Would you still be playing with your girlfriends while staying with me?" "Maybe." She stared at me for another minute, then asked, "Did you love me?" "Yes, I did. I still do. The only reason I stayed with you, thinking you were cheating, was because I loved you so much I couldn't leave you. You know I love you, right? My coming here should show that. I was devastated when you left, and I didn't know what led to it. I need you in my life, Jerry. I need you to come home with me, or I'll move here to be with you. But one way or another with you, Jerry. With you, please." "I can't, Patty. After all this, I just can't. Being with you is a constant reminder of what a cheater I was. I just can't look you in the eye every day knowing what I did." "But would you be able to do it if I cheated on you? While we were even, you could look me in the eye, right?" I nodded. "Then come home, Jerry, because we're even. I cheated on you. You were right. You just used the wrong information, but you came to the right conclusions. On nights when I worked overtime, Mike and I made love like a couple of sex-crazed rabbits. It started one night just before we finished our shift. We bumped into each other, looked at each other, and it was like a spark went between us. I let him make love to me. I didn't say a word. I just let him. After that, almost every night when we worked overtime, he would catch me in a dark corner or behind a pile of boxes and make love to me. I never said no. I never said yes. I just let him do it. I didn't even kiss him. That kiss at the Christmas party was our first and only kiss. I had a husband who loved me and drove me crazy and made fantastic, passionate love to me, and I had a part-time stud who treated me like a cheater, and then I went and ruined it." "You blew it?" "How?" "You started acting a little weird, and I thought you suspected something. The overheard conversation was a setup. It was supposed to calm you down and keep you from knowing Mike and I screwed up. Instead, he broke us up. If I hadn't tried to cheat, we'd still be together. You'd still be with me, thinking we were equals." "Are you saying you're still gonna sleep with Mike?" "No, Jerry. That's bitter irony. That fake conversation that turned you away from me also ended Mike and I's relationship. That night when we were working overtime, he brought the two guys he'd had the conversation with and told me that it was all played out, and now the three of them were going to get paid for it. So I left him. All I've done since that night is work and try to find you. I need you, Jerry. I'm not a person without you. Please, honey, can we put the past behind us and start over? We're acting like children. Can we please start over?" I stared at her, and my thoughts raced at 100 miles an hour. I loved her to death and missed her so much that not a day went by that I didn't think about or want to be with her. But could I go through that again? She must have read my mind. "It will never happen again, Jerry. I can promise you that. The last 14 months have been hell, Jerry. They've been the most miserable months of my life. Life without you is killing me, and I will never do anything to put myself through that hell again. Please, Jerry, I'm begging you, come back to me. At home or here, just let me be with you. There was really no question about what to do. I only ran away from her because I didn't think I was worthy. I loved her very much, and if she wanted me back, knowing everything about me, I'd be a fool to refuse. As for her cheating on me, I had already made peace with it when I started playing the stay-even game. Can we? We should. She loved me enough to lie to me, portraying herself as the cheater she never was. She never had an affair with Mike. She just told me that to make me believe we were even, to come home. How do I know that? I went back to my gym, and one morning Mike walked in. I don't know why, but I looked at him for a long time, and after a while he came up to me and asked, "Do I know you?" "No, but you knew my wife well enough to have an affair with her." "Hey, what are you babbling about, man? I didn't have any affairs with married women." "Did you forget the affair with Patty Bradley?" "No, I didn't." "What makes you think I had an affair with Patty?" She admitted it. I told her everything. He shook his head. "I'd love to, but that Christmas kiss is all it ever was. It's not like I didn't try. The conversation you overheard is true. I don't know why she wants you to think I was her lover. All I can say is that I wanted to, and I tried like hell to make it happen, but she never even gave me a chance. I was stunned when I got that Christmas kiss. Will I ever tell Patty about my conversation with Mike? No. I'm not going to do anything that would tip the apple cart over. She did buy me this bass boat, and in a perverse sort of way, I named the boat and wrote the name in big gold letters on both sides. Every time Patty and I board Mike's fun, it reminds each of us how fragile relationships can be and how hard we have to work to keep them intact. The end! Subscribe to my channel! Thank you! Daughter was hiding her mother's cheating. 5 weeks after my last visit with my daughter Kim and my lover Mark, I was still in the euphoria of that meeting. Mark and I called each other every other day and had phone sex several times. Unfortunately, I couldn't visit our daughter during that time due to their busy studies, but we have already planned a longer weekend Thursday through Sunday in the next 2 to 3 weeks. On Monday, my daughter called and said that her next semester must be paid within the next week, or she would have to leave college. I said I would talk to her dad. When my husband got home late that night, I asked him why our daughter's college money hadn't been paid yet. He looked me in the eye for a few seconds and told me that he would not pay for a disrespectful daughter who was stabbing him in the back. Stunned, I asked him what he meant. He simply said that he had learned that his daughter disrespected her father and, perhaps even more, disliked him. That's why he decided not to pay for her tuition, but I could pay for her from my account. Since it was late evening, I decided to call my daughter the next day, but when I tried to talk to my husband about it, he said he had said all that needed to be said. I went to bed angry with him. The next day, I called my daughter and told her what her father had told me. She had no idea why her father thought she didn't love him anymore. She said she had always loved him, but I could hear the sadness in her voice. I told her I would take care of the money for school, but she should talk to her father. When I went online to our accounts, I found that most of the money in the accounts was gone. I couldn't find out where the money went. I started getting angry with my husband again and waited for him to come home. As soon as he walked in, I asked him where all our money was and how I was supposed to pay for our daughter. "Well," he said, "I have withdrawn my money. The money that is in the joint accounts is for the current payments on the house and your car. If you don't have enough, get a job. As for paying for our daughter's schooling, maybe one of your lovers can pay for that. Although I don't think your college lovers will have enough money, maybe you can charge them for your charm, or your regular lover will give you money." My legs gave out from shock and I had to sit up. What? What do you mean? I don't have any lovers, I said as convincingly as I could. I felt like I was tearing myself apart and I didn't know what else to say. I didn't realize he knew about my extramarital sex at all. My husband was starting to get angry. "Oh, come on. I know about your steady lover. I also know about your college lover, Mark, and I know about all the college boys you slept with the support of my ungrateful daughter. I also know that you and she shared her boyfriend. I cried because I saw my marriage fail. I'm sorry, it was just sex, I whispered between sobs. Just sex? Then tell me, when was the last time you had sex with me and when did we make love? I couldn't truthfully answer that question, he continued. The last time you had sex with me was a week after your first visit to college, and it was just a pathetic sight as you lay there with your eyes closed while I did all the work. That's when I realized something was terribly wrong in our marriage. And as for making love, it was so long ago. Even I don't remember. I realize you didn't have time or need for me between all that phone talk with Mark and your constant lover. Yes, I have it all on video and audio, even your cheating in college. I just sat there like a deer in headlights. I didn't realize that I had neglected my husband and marriage for so long. I looked into his eyes and saw how hurt he was. What a terrible wife I had been. Not that I have any interest in having sex with you after your lovers. Who knows what kind of STDs you have now? And our daughter even encouraged you to give a damn about our marriage. She hasn't spoken to me once since she moved into the dorm. She even ignored my texts a few weeks ago. Now you know why I won't pay her tuition. She needs to get a job. Maybe she can do cheating like Mom. Maybe together you can earn enough to pay for college. He said it with pain and anger. I just sat there and cried. Now I'm going to get some sleep. Over the last couple days, I've moved most of my stuff into the guest room. I'm not surprised you haven't even noticed. I will sleep there as I see no need to pretend. I sat there for a long time, or at least it seemed like a long time to me. Then I called my daughter, even though it was late. But I needed someone to talk to, and I had to tell her about our problems. Without any greeting, I just cried on the phone. Kim, your father knows. Your father knows about Mark, about all the sex that was there. He even knows about my lover here. And he knows about your involvement, which is why he won't pay your tuition. Mom, how does he know? Do you have a lover at home too? What about Mark? What's going to happen now? And who's going to pay for college? We hurt him. We've both hurt him very badly, and I don't know if our marriage will survive. He has said hurtful things about both of us, and honestly, I can't blame him. I don't know where he hid most of our money, but there is no way I can talk to him about it now. I have to let him cool down and stay obedient. Maybe I can save our marriage, but I wouldn't bet on it at this point. I'm not sure you should call him right now. He told me that you've been neglecting him since you moved into the dorm and even ignoring his messages. So please stay calm. Oh, and tell Mark not to call me. I can't see him or any of the other guys anymore, and I don't think your boyfriend Bob will ever be welcome here. My life is falling apart. There's no other word for it. I had it all. A loving husband who provided for both my daughter and me in every way. He made enough money that I didn't have to go back to work after our daughter Kim was born. We weren't rich, but we had a comfortable life with a nice home, and I didn't have to worry about money. Okay? Sometimes I had to argue with my husband, but most of the time I got my way. We had a varied love life, but it had dwindled in the last few years because my husband got promoted a few times and had to work late more often. Maybe that was the reason I was vulnerable to the advances of my longtime lover, Billy. With my high libido, I thought I could have a lover without hurting my husband. I thought I could have my cake and eat it, and my husband wouldn't suffer for it. It would even improve my personal life with him. How silly that sounds now. Then came the time when our daughter moved away to college, and I visited her there for 2 weekends. The first weekend I met Mark at a fraternity party I attended with my daughter. I spent time in bed with him, and my daughter even appreciated it. What followed was 4 weeks of phone sex with Mark. During this time, I also met up with Billy, but I didn't tell him about Mark or my weekend. What I didn't realize was that I was completely neglecting my husband. On my second visit to college, I met Mark again and had sex with him and about a dozen of his friends throughout the weekend. My daughter knew everything and was happy for me, and we both didn't think much of my husband, her father. We were infinitely selfish. Another 5 weeks after my second weekend away, my life fell apart. My husband stopped paying for college and told me he knew about my lover. But my downfall didn't end there. I spent the rest of the week in a fog. I called my daughter several times and we cried together. I can honestly say that I never wanted to hurt my husband. I just didn't think about what would happen if my husband found out. Today, I realized that I was living in my own fantasy world, where I could have everything. My daughter said she was coming home for the weekend, and we should sit down and talk to him. I wasn't sure if it would help me, but maybe it could repair her relationship with her father. Mark called once after that, but I disconnected him. Even Billy, who I saw usually twice a week, didn't cross my mind. He texted me a few times asking to come over, but I told him once that I had issues to work out and I would contact him later. My husband was not showing up at home in the evenings. At first I thought he was making love to other women, but then I saw sports clothes in the hamper. I remembered that I had seen it before, but I didn't think about it then. Well, that shows where my mind was. Then came the weekend. Kim came over Friday afternoon and we talked. I even told her about Billy, the one secret I had kept from her. When my husband arrived late that night, my daughter ran up to him, hugged him, and yelled several times, "I'm sorry." He just patted her on the back and said, "We'll talk in the morning," and went to the guest room. I know this indifference hurt her, but she said she understood. After a sleepless night, we met in the morning at our dining room table. After looking at my daughter and I for a few seconds, he simply said, "Who wants to start talking? What do you both have to say about this mess?" My daughter and I had discussed it the night before and thought it would be best if she mediated, despite her role in it. "Dad, first I want to say that I'm sorry we hurt you so badly. We both, Mom and I, truly love you, and that has never changed. We know that our actions show something different." My husband only grumbled but didn't say anything, so my daughter continued. "You know that I was always my mother's best friend, not just a child. She shared a lot of her life with me, so I also know a lot about your marriage. Yes, we even talked about sex and your life." At these words, my husband looked at me surprised and angry. I couldn't look him in the eyes for long, so I lowered my gaze to my hands. I remembered what I had told my daughter over the past few years, and it didn't paint a good picture of my life with my husband. Worse than it was. My daughter continued, "My mother told me that over the years your love life suffered. You started working longer hours and were often tired. I didn't know that she had an affair with Billy a few years ago. She told me last week that she started exploring her body with him to improve your life together." Until then, she spoke in a normal voice but looked at me accusingly. But looking back, I never saw any improvement, at least not that she told me. She always told me that she wasn't satisfied with you and didn't get attention from you. That was the main reason I agreed to her affair with Mark on her first visit. I thought it would fulfill her needs in the long run and not hurt you in any way. I knew she had been in contact with him over the following weeks, and I even knew she wanted to meet him again. However, I did not know how intense their calls and conversations were. I found out after talking to Mark. Yes, I talked her into meeting him again the second weekend she came to college. It wasn't meant to be a long-term affair. I knew she wasn't just having sex with Mark, but after that, I just figured it wouldn't hurt anyone if she let her hair down all weekend. At those words, she lowered her eyes and blushed, but continued. "Yes, I let her make love to my boyfriend, Bob. Somehow it seemed normal for the bond between my mother and me. After she finished, we sat in silence and pondered what she had said. I began to cry and realized that it would take a miracle to save the marriage. After a long pause, my husband turned to me and coldly asked if I had anything to add by way of explanation. I couldn't speak, so I just shook my head negatively. He waited a few more seconds to see if I would change my mind. Then he leaned back and determined my future. Let's summarize. My wife had her long-term affair because I had to work long hours to feed my family. She didn't want to talk to me about it because she didn't want to hurt me. Instead, she made love to other men thinking it wouldn't hurt me. She wanted to explore her body by having an affair with Mark instead of talking to me. She also became a cheater for over a dozen frat boys to fulfill her needs with the support of my daughter. She even slept with her daughter's boyfriend to get closer to her. When he put it like that, it sounded really awful. I shamefully leaned back in my chair and let the tears flow, but I didn't think for a second that they would have any effect on him. After a while, he spoke again, addressing his daughter. Let's get something straight. Your mother had a good job before she got pregnant with you. Don't get me wrong, the pregnancy was planned, and I always wanted children. That's the reason we moved to this bigger house for all the kids we planned, even when I argued that this house was too big. But she countered that she would go back to work after the planned children went to school and contribute to the household. I sat there in tears and remembered that time. A time when we were happy. It's true, I wanted that big house and to fill it with kids, and I really wanted to go back to work. After you were born, she stayed home and took care of you. After a few years, I wanted more children. But your mother decided that one was enough and that she didn't want any more. I never forced her to have more because I thought it was her decision in the end. When you went to school, she also decided that she didn't want to go back to work and would focus on you growing up. It was okay at first because I was making enough to live a good life. There was just a little problem. Now we had a big house that I had to pay for, and your mother didn't go back to work. In itself, that wouldn't have been such a problem because I was doing well at my job and making good money. However, since your mother stayed home, she had to fill her free time, especially after you went to school. Oh boy, I knew where this was going. I never realized how bad it was. Her hobbies eventually cost a lot of money. I don't want to explain what your mother spent our money on. I don't want to repeat her bi-weekly beauty salon visits for a few $100s. Or her shoes, purses, and dresses that she used maybe once over the years. And I don't want to mention her new car that she had to replace every 3 or 4 years. With all the extras, of course. Oh, you know she even spent some of the money I earned on her lover? While I got for Christmas a gift certificate, her lover got an expensive watch with personalized engraving. At these words, my daughter looked at me in surprise. This was also something I hadn't told her about. It made me feel even more embarrassed. You may wonder why I didn't say anything. In fact, I had said something from the beginning. I had several conversations about money with your mother, but I kept them away from you. She always promised to cut back on her spending. Well, that would last a few weeks, and then she would start spending again. After a few years, I stopped discussing it, but I had to work longer hours to finance your mother. And of course, you. I don't need to tell you what hobbies you've tried over the years, and I'm sure you have no idea how much they cost. Your mother always wanted the best of the best for you. Over the past few years, 70% of our money went to you and your mother. With the remaining 30%, I paid my expenses and maintained our nest. Your mother once accused me of spending $150 on a tennis racket, while she spent $400 on a new bag in the same week. And I'd really like to see your mom in all the lingerie she bought from Victoria's Secret or Agent Provocateur, but I guess that's reserved for lovers. My God, I thought, how much he knows. I've never seen it this bad. I never knew our financial situation. The money was just there to be spent. When I bought underwear, I seemed to think of my husband, but I never wore it for him, even when he asked me to. He interrupted my train of thought by continuing. So, my dear daughter, you will realize that money doesn't grow on trees. I had to work for it, and I had to work long hours to bring in extra money. I like my job, so it wasn't a big problem for me. Of course, my working long hours had to affect our lives. After working 10 or more hours a day, I have no energy for your mom. Hearing about our life, my daughter started to blush. She wasn't ready to talk about sex with her father, even though she had started it herself. Oh, come on, my dear daughter. There's no reason to blush. If you talked to your mother about our life, you must have known all this. Did your mother tell you that at the beginning of our marriage we had quite an active love life? We did it often and sometimes several times a day. That, of course, diminished after you were born, which was fine with me. But what your mother was never, at least with me, was really adventurous. Introducing new ideas wasn't really appreciated, so I stopped trying a decade ago. Hearing it from him this way, I wanted to object, but I couldn't. Everything he said was true. He tried to be more adventurous and try new things, but I refused. How my lover or the frat boys saw me, I didn't care, so I was willing to do things I wouldn't do with my husband. So, my dear daughter, blaming me for our bad life and using that as an excuse is not working. Did your mom say anything to me? No. Did she ever introduce new practices? No. Did she ever agree to new things introduced by me? Almost never. About 90% of our lovemaking sessions were with me as the active partner with your mother lying on her back. So don't tell me that's my fault. The last tirades got louder and louder, and I leaned back more and more. He took a few deep breaths and continued more calmly. I don't know what you both expect from me, but there will be changes in all of our lives. You can think about your future until tomorrow. Then I will decide what happens next. With these words, he looked at us for a few seconds that seemed like hours. Then he got up and left the room. Half an hour later, he came downstairs with a small gym bag and said he would be back late in the evening and we didn't need to wait for him with dinner. Kim and I sat at the table looking at each other, but immersed in our own thoughts. I had always considered myself a person of high morals and a high sense of family. But coming face to face with the truth, I suddenly saw myself for who I really was. A selfish, cheating fool. Self-awareness is the first step to self-improvement, but it hurt. But what hurt the most was that I had hurt my husband. Somehow, I didn't feel sorry for myself, not one bit. But I did feel sorry for my husband and my daughter. How, and especially, when had I lost my morals? That was something I had to decide for myself, whether my marriage would last or not. I don't want to go into details, but as I talked to my daughter the rest of the day, I knew our relationship had gone badly awry. She didn't openly blame me, but I could tell from her wording and tone that she was blaming me for presenting her father as a bad person. She wanted a relationship with her father, and I thought she had a great chance. I would help her in any way I could. However, I didn't know if my marriage was mortally wounded or if it could be saved. I knew it would never be the same again, and I had to make many concessions. I knew I loved my husband, even though my actions didn't show it, and I knew I respected my heartfelt husband for all he had done for us. I never let anyone seriously berate him. I have to take the blame, take responsibility for my actions, and start giving without expecting anything. The next Sunday morning began the same way it had the day before. My daughter and I were sitting at the table when my husband arrived. Before either of them could speak, I said, "Please let me begin before I lose my courage." They both looked at me in surprise, and when they didn't object, I continued, "My dear husband, I am sorry that I have caused you such pain. I don't know when I lost my way, but please believe me when I say that I have always loved you. Be assured that nothing you did or didn't do was the cause. The blame lies entirely on me. I don't know why I acted the way I did, but I intend to find out with professional help. I know you are not happy with our daughter right now, but please understand, she is as much a victim as you are. A victim of my selfishness and the lies I've told her, and lies in the form of my omission of important facts." With the last sentences, they looked at me with big eyes. I don't think they were expecting anything like that at all. Before losing my composure, I continued, "Even if you don't want to see me anymore, please make peace with our daughter. She needs you as a responsible father to get her back on the right track. She needs you a lot more than she needs me. At least right now. I know I have no right to ask, but if you find it in your heart to give me a second chance, I'll do anything to earn it. I know you'll never forget what I did. but I hope you can forgive me sometime in the future. If you move on without me to be happy with someone else, you forgive me at least so that you can be happy." With that last sentence, I lost my composure and ran upstairs to my bedroom. I wasn't going to say that last phrase because I didn't want to think about life without him. But right at that moment, all I wanted was for him to be happy with whoever he was with. It took me 15 minutes to calm down, and I went downstairs. "I'm sorry," I said as I sat down again. Everyone seemed to be deep in their own thoughts. But then my husband straightened up. "I thank you for your confession. I didn't expect it to be so serious." After a few seconds, he continued, "I don't want to beat around the bush. I've already consulted with a divorce lawyer." With that revelation, I leaned back in my chair. I knew my marriage was broken, and all I had to do was wait to be served. I knew I wouldn't resist. I almost missed what he said next. Unfortunately, the laws in this state are not really in my favor in a divorce case. After considering all the possibilities with an attorney, we've come to the conclusion that it's cheaper to keep you here. I looked up with surprise and hope on my face. He looked me in the eye, but there was certainly resentment in his eyes. But this was the first time I had a faint hope of saving my marriage. But I knew it was going to be a long road, and I was willing to take it. Of course, there will be some major changes. First, I've canceled all of your credit cards. You will both get debit cards that I will put a small but appropriate amount of money on each week. You should use this money to pay for groceries and some personal expenses. I know you need to make some serious adjustments to your spending, but this time it will be up to me. Financial hardship didn't scare me as much, even though I knew I would have to adjust. I was used to having money when I wanted it. I'll have to get used to it. But the most important thing is your infidelity. You know you hurt me with your lovemaking, and though you told me you never lost respect for me, I feel insulted. I hope you don't expect physical affection in the foreseeable future, because at the moment touching you doesn't appeal to me. This hurt me very deeply. It was like a slap in the face. I had always wanted to look good, and it was important to me to know that men desired me. But now the man I truly loved didn't desire me, didn't even want to touch me, and it shocked me. But when I felt my face turn pale, I realized that it wasn't my body itself that made me unattractive. It was what I had done with my body. I had allowed other men to use it, even though only my husband should be allowed to use it. At this point, I felt dirty myself. Not only my body, my soul felt dirty too. I knew I had to cleanse my body and soul of deceit and selfishness. One more note. I expect you to get a clean bill of health. At those words, my face flushed red with shame. I had not thought about my health, much less the health of my loved ones. I would kill myself if I passed on a few STDs to my husband. This may be the hardest part for you, but I don't want to abstain from lovemaking. We've had less in recent years, and then just boring sex. We've already talked about the reasons why. However, you had a lot of adventurous lovemaking with your lover, so now I have a hall pass for the future. I won't just make love to any woman, but if I find someone worthwhile, I will have sex with her without regret. I won't flaunt it in front of you, and it won't be someone in our circle of friends, preferably some stranger. I'll keep it a secret, but I'll tell you if you want to know. Oh my God, he intends to cheat. Several feelings came over me. Anger, pain, hatred, humiliation. With that last feeling, I suddenly realized how he felt when he found out about my deception. It didn't make me feel any better, but I knew I had no right to complain. I just leaned back. Of course, if you want to continue this marriage, you must remain faithful. Otherwise, I'll divorce you. I can't take any more disrespect. Maybe I should make love to your lover's girlfriends, but as far as I know, only 3 of them have steady girlfriends. He looked at Kim again. Bob has a girlfriend, but I'm not sure I want to make love to my own daughter. Kim looked at him wide-eyed. And your longtime lover, Billy, well, he doesn't have a steady girlfriend, but he has 2 other married women he sees regularly. You're not his only woman. He's a player who loves married women and tooting their husbands' horns. There is at least one marriage that fell apart because of him about 2 years ago. This was something new. I didn't think much of Billy or what he did when I wasn't with him. There was no love on my part. Those are the rules for the future. If you can't live with them, you'll have to file for divorce yourself. With these words, he stood up and left us sitting. A long silence followed as we pondered what we were facing. The only problem for me was the realization that my husband might be cheating on me. But what choice did I really have? I could be well compensated in the divorce, but at what cost? I love my husband, and I didn't want to lose him. I knew I had to make myself desirable to him, body and even more so soul. I had to win him back. The rest of Sunday, we hardly spoke at all. Kim left for her college on Sunday night. I didn't know what surprises the next few days would hold for me. On Monday night, an excited Kim called. She told me that Mark's fraternity had thrown a party that weekend. One of the girls there, who had been drinking heavily, had been taken advantage of by several guys. She reported it. That same day, someone called the police and reported a major drug distribution at this particular fraternity. During a drug raid on the fraternity building, they found a lot of drugs of all kinds, dating drugs, and videos of various groups on the fraternity brothers' computers and cell phones. It was Mark's fraternity, and according to Kim, a lot of drugs were found in his room as well. I looked at my husband and saw the corners of his mouth lift up. I had a feeling that he knew about all of this before, maybe had set it all up. When I asked him, he simply told me that there was no way he would have organized the use of an innocent girl. It was just a coincidence and icing on the cake. The college has shut down this fraternity, and his guys are going to face some tough times. Their future careers don't look so good. On Thursday, I received another unexpected call. They found a banned video on Billy's office computer, and further investigation revealed several videos of him with various married women. There were none of my videos, but since I was one of his frequent contacts, I was interviewed. My husband supported me during the investigation, and after a few days, I was acquitted. A few weeks later, Billy called me from detention. He asked me if my husband had planted the videos since all my videos were missing. I didn't even know they existed. He had received an anonymous letter that said, "Don't use married women." I didn't ask, but I knew my husband had a hand in it. I know he has a friend who is great at IT security. I just hoped this friend hadn't seen my videos. Since I knew he was getting revenge on my lovers, I was just waiting for the axe to fall on me. A year later, I am happy. I'm still married to my husband, and I love him more than ever. Of course, it's been a rough year. I immediately went to a counselor to understand myself. A full medical exam, yes, I also got a clean bill of health, revealed a hormonal imbalance that may have started a long time ago, apparently shortly after my pregnancy, and I began treatment. Psychologically, I was diagnosed with a mild form of shopping addiction. These things, combined with a high libido and less time with my husband, may have led to my cheating. I could cite this as an excuse, but deep down I knew that I was the one making the cheating decisions. I made sure my husband knew all of this, but I never presented it as an excuse, and I made sure my husband knew it too. A few weeks later, I found a job in my profession at a small startup. My boss is a woman, I don't want any misunderstandings with my husband, who was cheated on by her husband. I told her all about myself, and at first she was very strict with me, but she saw how I wanted to be a better woman, so gradually we became good friends. The work doesn't pay that much money, but it is satisfying. My husband told me that I can keep the money, but I contribute it to his account. I live on his debit, which he has increased over the last year, but I have never used it fully except when I bought him something as a gift. My daughter has rebuilt her relationship with her father, and they are closer than ever. All I want is for them to be happy. My own relationship with my husband took longer to get better. After just a few weeks, a friend mentioned that my husband had become quite the stud. He cut back on his work hours and started a fitness program. Within a few months, he became very fit. Over the summer, our daughter was visited by several of her college friends. They seemed to flirt with him more than necessary, and he enjoyed their attention. Was I really jealous? Of course. But surprisingly, more than that, I was proud that he was attractive to young women. Did he sleep with any of them? I don't know and don't want to know. After all, he had a hall pass. It was 3 months before he came back to our bedroom and another 3 months before we started making love again. It was when I caught him off guard in the bathroom that he fought back. I wasn't angry, but I was horny. I told him that he didn't need to fight himself off. He can use my body any way he wants. He doesn't have to make love to me. He can just sleep with me for his own pleasure. That was the first night of intimacy. I knew this was his way of venting his anger, and I accepted it without complaint. Such was our sex, and I even enjoyed it, but I missed making love. A few weeks later, we went out to dinner with friends one day. When we came back, we were both pretty drunk, and we made love for the first time. I cried and cuddled up to him and said thank you several times. With that, we became real husband and wife again. Our daughter felt it immediately when she visited us and was happy for us. A year later, we went out to dinner as a couple. After dinner, he told me he was canceling his own hall pass. If I wanted to know anything about what happened during that time, I had one last chance to ask, and he would answer. After this evening, he will never say anything more about it. I thought about it for a minute and then just said, I don't want to know anything about the past, but I ask that in the future everything that happens between us. The end. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.